There's something truly magical about seeing Mount Fuji for the first time, especially in winter, when her peak is dusted with snow and the skies open up in brilliant, crisp clarity. On this particular day, I decided to step away from the lively rhythm of Tokyo and take a peaceful winter day trip to Kawaguchiko, a charming town nestled right at the foot of Japan's most beloved mountain. The day began bright and early at the Shinjuku Expressway bus terminal, which sits conveniently above Shinjuku Station. Even if it's your first time navigating it, the terminal is easy to understand, clearly signposted in English and Japanese, and efficiently run. Just what you'd expect from Japan's excellent transport system. I had pre-booked my seat online, which I recommend especially during peak seasons, but if you're making a more spontaneous trip, it's no problem. There are machines and counters where you can buy your ticket on the spot. As I boarded the expressway bus, I immediately appreciated how warm and comfortable it was. The seats are cushioned and spacious enough to relax, and the heating is a blessing, especially on a crisp winter morning. Once we rolled out of Shinjuku, the scenery slowly began to change. Skyscrapers and busy streets gave way to suburban rooftops, then open countryside, all blanketed in soft patches of snow. Watching the landscape transform through the window was quietly mesmerizing. Icy rivers, snowy hills, and the occasional glimpse of Mount Fuji teasing the horizon. The ride itself took just around 2 hours, smooth and relaxing the whole way. When the bus finally pulled into Kawaguchiko Station, I stepped off into fresh mountain air and a peaceful town that immediately felt slower paced and more serene than Tokyo. It was like crossing into a completely different rhythm. Still, quiet, and surrounded by nature, with Mount Fuji waiting somewhere just beyond the clouds. From Kawaguchiko Station, instead of walking, I opted to take the local sightseeing bus, often called the Omnibus, which is part of the Red Line loop. Soon, we arrived at the Mount Fuji Panoramic Ropeway stop. The station is nestled near Lake Kawaguchiko, and the ropeway cabins were waiting to take visitors up to the top of Mount Tenjo. The moment you step inside one of those cable cars, you're treated to an ever-expanding view. As we slowly ascended, the rooftops of town began to shrink below us, and the view opened up to a breathtaking panorama. On a clear day like this, Mount Fuji stood tall in the distance, majestic, snow-capped, and incredibly still. The higher we went, the more it felt like we were drifting into a postcard scene, and by the time we reached the top, I could already tell this would be one of the highlights of the trip. Reaching the top of the Mount Fuji Panoramic Ropeway truly felt like arriving somewhere magical. As you step off the cable car and walk onto the observation deck, you're immediately greeted by one of the most iconic sights in Japan, Mount Fuji rising above Lake Kawaguchiko, both perfectly framed in a single, breathtaking view. The winter air was crisp and cold, but I didn't mind one bit. I stood there for a while, just soaking it all in. It was quiet, peaceful, with only the soft crunch of snow beneath my shoes and the occasional hush of wind. There's a special kind of stillness up there, almost like time slows down. Mount Fuji looks close enough to touch, and its snow-covered peaks seem to glow under the clear winter sky. Just off to the side, there's a small gift shop at the summit. It's cozy and full of cute Mount Fuji-themed souvenirs, snacks, and warming drinks. If your hands are getting chilly, grabbing a hot drink or a sweet little keepsake is a nice way to take a piece of that moment home with you. Not far from the gift shop is a charming area themed after the Japanese folktale Kachi Kachi Yama. There's a small lookout spot with playful statues and even a bell you can ring for good luck. It adds a lighthearted touch to the experience and makes the spot even more memorable, especially if you're visiting with a friend or loved one. Whether you're up there for incredible photos, a peaceful pause, or simply to feel small in the best possible way, surrounded by sky, snow, and silence, the view is something you'll carry with you long after the trip is over. Riding the ropeway back down from Mount Tenjo is a beautiful experience in itself. As the cable car slowly descends, you're treated to a sweeping, elevated view of Lake Kawaguchiko spreading out below, with Mount Fuji standing tall in the background. So close and vivid, it feels almost surreal. The town below begins to reappear in soft layers, with rooftops sprinkled with snow and trees lining the shoreline like a winter postcard. The descent gives you a new perspective, as if the mountain is slowly saying goodbye, giving you one last stunning panorama before you reach the ground. Once I got off the ropeway and made my way to the nearby omnibus stop, the scenic journey continued. As I arrived at Oishi Park, the first thing that caught my eye wasn't just the view. It was the stillness. Along the lake's edge, visitors were quietly scattered about, thoughtfully choosing their perfect photo spots. Some crouched low to capture the delicate reflection, others stood back to fit Fuji into a wide frame, and many simply stood in silence, taking it all in. And truly, you can't blame them. The view here is spectacular. Mount Fuji, dressed in her snow-capped winter cloak, stands tall and serene, reflected almost perfectly in the glassy surface of Lake Kawaguchiko. Frosty reeds line the water's edge, and the bare winter trees arch slightly, almost as if bowing to the mountain in reverence. I tucked my hands into my coat pockets and stood still for a while, not checking the time, not thinking of what's next, just existing in the quiet beauty of it all. For me, this peaceful pause by the lakeside became the heart of the entire day. It was simple, yes, but deeply memorable. Just a few steps away from Oishi Park is the Kawaguchiko Natural Living Center, and honestly, it's such a cozy little spot that's worth lingering in. The building itself is charming and inviting, with big windows that look out onto the lake and, of course, the ever-present gaze of Mount Fuji. Inside, you'll find shelves lined with beautifully packaged local specialties, fruity homemade jams, fragrant herbal teas, and plenty of Fuji-themed goodies like cookies, candles, and small handcrafted souvenirs. Everything feels thoughtful and rooted in the local charm of the region. The warmth of the center was a welcome break from the winter air, and I ended up picking out a few jars of blueberry jam and some soothing peach tea to bring home, small tokens of a peaceful day. There's also a little cafe inside where I ordered a hot drink and took a seat by the window. Sipping slowly, I let my eyes settle on the view outside. Mount Fuji standing tall under the soft glow of the afternoon light, framed by the snowy garden just outside. It was one of those quiet, grounding moments that make you feel both full and calm at the same time. Eventually, it was time to head back. I made my way to the nearby bus stop and caught the local bus back to Kawaguchiko Station. As always, the timing was spot on. Japan's transport never disappoints. Whether you're traveling with someone special, sharing laughter with your family, or simply enjoying your own company, a day like this becomes more than a simple outing. It becomes a memory you'll carry with you long after you've returned to the buzz of the city. So if you're ever thinking of stepping away from Tokyo's busy streets for a bit of fresh air and quiet beauty, Kawaguchiko in winter is the perfect retreat. It's soft, snowy, and absolutely magical.